Hi, I'm Kitty Marple. I live at 82 Madbury Road, and I am running for a third term on the Durham Town Council. My first foray into local government was joining the Rental Housing Commission probably 8 years ago to try to deal with students living in residential neighborhoods. We'd had people living next door to us who were hard to live next door to because they were students, they were young, they were not necessarily in tune with our schedules, and I had just gotten tired of living in that situation. The Rental Housing Commission proved to be a very positive thing for me. We were able to institute some local ordinances to help with student behaviors and to also help with safety of rental housing through the Housing Standards Ordinance. And I find these are very positive steps in making Durham a more tranquil place for all of us to live. I feel that public service is something that if you have the time, it's a very rewarding thing, and certainly not monetarily at the local level, but from a standpoint that you are providing services to your fellow citizens. And having been on the council for almost 6 years, I realized that what kind of effect a single person can have in shaping what I hope is good policy for our town. A lot of things that we do on the council are day-to-day things having to do with buying fire trucks or getting storm sewer runoff dealt with. These things are not exciting, they're not fun, but they're really important, and those are the sorts of things that we take for granted in our municipalities. I feel very honored that Durham is a place where people of different stripes live. New Hampshire is not necessarily full of that kind of broad-based humanity, and therefore we are able to see things from many points of view and hopefully come to a consensus that works for most people. And our meeting regarding whether or not Durham should become a sanctuary city is one major example of that kind of opportunity that we have here in Durham. Just briefly about me, I was educated as a mechanical engineer, but I have been at home for many years raising my children. We were fortunate to be able to do that. But even in my life experiences that I had when I was working and raising kids, I feel like I learned many things that would be very helpful to me in making decisions about our town. My family, many people in my family were in government service, both civil and military, and I've always felt that working for a government with others is very important for our society. I just want to say that I am thrilled that Cardin Welsh is going to be joining us again. He and I have had our differences over fiscal issues, but he is a good counselor and I welcome him back. And I'm very much looking forward to working with Sally Tobias because she is very energetic. She seems to have lots of ideas, and I think she will be a very positive addition to the council. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Sally Tobias, and I am running for the position of town councilor. I am a New Hampshire resident. I was born and raised here, as was my mother, and I have lived in New Hampshire until I met my husband of 25 years, Harry. I grew up in the Lakes region. I went to school up in Plymouth, and I moved down to the Seacoast area right after college. And it was here that I met my husband. He was a sailor, and he was in the submarine service. He was temporarily assigned to the shipyard in Portsmouth. So marrying him meant I needed to leave. And I was excited about leaving. My family wasn't excited about leaving. I was excited about leaving because it was a great adventure. We lived in a lot of different states and we traveled a lot. When he released himself from the service, we had the opportunity to move to California. And we were there for about 10 years. It was there, when I was in California, that I began to realize I missed home a lot. And it is there I realized that I loved New Hampshire. And many people have asked, well, why would you want to leave? That's such a beautiful area, California. Why would you be wanting to come back to New England? And all I could say is, well, this is my home. This is where I wanted to be. I found myself comparing everywhere I lived to New Hampshire. And every place always seemed to fall short. And that may seem, oh, you know, you're being silly, you're being fussy, but there is something about this state. It's all here. The seacoast, I can't even begin to describe how beautiful it is, even compared to you know, Virginia Beach or the California seacoast. There is just something special about this area. I started bothering my husband, or I would actually say badgering my husband, to leave California back in 2005. My mother had just passed away, and that drove home to me more than anything that I needed to be back home. He chose to get a new job, and we moved across country. We got to Pennsylvania, and I began living there, which is where I also found myself still wanting to be in New Hampshire. We had that opportunity finally, and we came back to New Hampshire about 2.5 years ago, and we chose the seacoast, and we chose Durham because Durham has a very special place in the environment. And having lived in all those different places, I began to see what we take for granted here. In California, I saw how land was a factory farm, and when it was no longer useful as a factory farm, it was turned into housing developments without any thought, without any consideration, without any input from the community. If they could make money, they did, and houses were built. When I lived in Pennsylvania, we lived in an area where there had been a lot of coal mining, and I saw the remnants of that. When the coal ran out, the towns just up and left, and things were left. You saw the ravages of strip mining, and you saw the big, ugly metal things that they would use just left to rot, and you saw decline in the communities. And I also lived in that area where a strong influx of people from New York City had moved in after 9/11. And development again started happening without any thought to the people that were already there, without any thought to the infrastructure, without any thought to the effects on school or the effects of the environment. They were making money, and they just did it. I saw that, and I didn't like it. And it always bothered me to see the decline and to see the haphazard way of dealing with their environment. And the people didn't have a voice. They were always told, this is how it's going to be, and somebody made money, and they went on and they complained, but they didn't do anything about it. As I said, I told my husband, we need to move to the seacoast, and Durham is a great town. Durham is just, it's got a great vibe, the university is there, and that's why we chose Durham. Durham has that small town community. I live in town, I live on Madbury Road, and I can walk downtown. My child can walk to the high school. The schools are stellar, in my opinion. The environment is there. Durham has a commitment to its lands. It has a commitment, a long commitment to the environment that it exists in. But most important, I moved here for those reasons, for its location, for the beautiful view, for the feel of the town. But when I got here, I really had the experience of getting to know the people that live here. The people in Durham are very committed to Durham. They don't always agree on how to do something or agree on everything, but they agree on the respect and the process. And the inclusivity is something that I didn't see in other areas that I lived in. And that's when I knew I was home, because when I got back to Durham and I got back to New Hampshire and we were in our home in Durham, I started getting out and about, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. And then when you're meeting people, everyone is open, everyone is receptive. I chose to get involved. My youngest is in high school and entered high school, and I was no longer needed at such an intense level as a mom. And so I decided to get involved in some of the local opportunities. I got on the Conservation Commission, because that obviously is where my heart is with the environment. I chose also to get on economic development, because as a business major, I always see that is a part of me too. I see that Durham had undergone an incredible amount of development, which I wasn't so sure about at first, but I can see why they did it, and I can see the benefits it actually has had to our community. But there is more development that is being considered, and I think when we're looking at development, we need to be very cautious as to how it's going to be. I think that Durham, the town of Durham, the people here have the right to have the types of services that they want. And I think that the town is involved in that, and I think that is something that is taken into consideration. And I encourage that active participation when it comes to changes that are going to be made for your town. You have the right, I have the right to ask for what I want and how I want it, and that can be worked out. That can be, you have to go to a process through the developer, and you need to work that out. As I said, I served on Conservation Commission, I've served on Economic Development, and I also got involved with the Land Stewardship Committee. I also was asked to serve on the Community Garden Steering Committee just a few months ago. I am a gardener at the Community Garden, and I do enjoy that. As I said, just to wrap this up, I think that my involvement in Durham stems from a desire on my own to be involved in the community that I am, and I am very happy with the receptive quality of the city of Durham, or the town of Durham. I find that it's a very, a very open community. I find that it is a very receptive community, and I enjoy being here. And I hope to continue serving in whatever way I have my capacity to do so.